Facebook has been bad news bears lately. First, they're getting hit with whistleblowers, and then secondly, they have outages, and lastly, the stock itself has been absolutely hammered. In this video, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on the recent news, my opinion on social media stocks in general, as well as how I view the stock at its current price. Now, I realize some people that are watching this video probably think Facebook is evil and that they would never invest in a company like Facebook, which I totally respect because everyone has their own opinion. And if you haven't watched the Social Dilemma documentary on Netflix, which kind of talks about this whole social media scene and the underworkings of all these algorithms and how it can impact society as a whole, definitely an entertaining as well as educational watch. Now, do I believe Facebook is inherently evil? Not really. I really think the whole issue with social media and kind of it pushing misinformation or controversial topics, things like that, is really due to the algorithms that companies like Facebook use, or Google, or Snapchat, any of these companies, Twitter, you name it. Social media in general uses algorithms to push content to the most eyeballs. And what gets the most eyeballs? Conspiracy theories, misinformation, anything that's exciting to the human eye, or anything that gets a ton of engagement. So if you could smash that like button, that would really help me out with the algorithm overlords. One of the concerns is regulation and how companies like Facebook should be regulated to the point where they're responsible for user-generated information and to fact check, as well as make sure that nothing harmful is being pushed out to the masses. It's a tough position because if Facebook isn't able to regulate the algorithm based on a set rules, then people are upset. If they do regulate certain posts, then people are upset because it's not free speech. And then you have a point where Facebook gets regulated. Does Google get regulated? Snapchat? All the social media companies? Reddit? You name it. Do they all go away? And then who do you have left? Is it the government that regulates the internet and what people say? Are they allowed to push an agenda? I don't know. It's just like very gray, and it's kind of like Pandora's box for social media, user-generated content. How do you regulate what is said by the masses when literally so much information is being put out there every single second of every single day? Rant over. Not only did Facebook have that whistleblower information come out, but shortly after, Facebook also suffered major outages across Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. Everything was down, and it was hilarious to see on Twitter how many people were basically commenting about Facebook being down. Across the internet, it was memeified to a certain point, but it also goes to show that how ingrained Facebook is in society, and when apps like WhatsApp goes down, Facebook, it can actually affect a lot of countries around the world that rely on those tools for communication. So for instance, WhatsApp is massive when it comes to the international market. And so when something like that goes down, people can't talk to each other, which is showing how much impact Facebook has on everyone's daily lives. And then also can be scary because it's one company, and if something does happen to WhatsApp, everyone just can't communicate with each other. Facebook stock is trading around $328, which is around 15% off its all-time highs. And we can see at the beginning of September, it was trading close to 384. And since then, it's pretty much just been getting absolutely destroyed to the downside. It's always good to look at the overall market to see how it's done compared to something like Facebook. If we look at from all-time highs at the beginning of September versus where the S&P 500 is right now, it's only down around 2.6%. Comparatively, Facebook is doing much, much worse. From a technical standpoint, Facebook actually hit its 200-day moving average, as well as hitting an RSI below 30, showing signs that it's been oversold. And so a short-term bounce would make a lot of sense in the stock. Also, the MACD divergence is looking like it's about to turn bullish. So from a technical standpoint, on a short to medium term play, Facebook looks pretty decent for a bounce. But let's dive into the fundamentals as well, because I put way more emphasis on that versus something like the technicals. Facebook is clearly already a massive company. $917 billion for a market cap is not a small number. Now, if you look at its growth rates though, this is still a very fast growing company when it comes to both revenue growth as well as actual earnings growth. What's interesting about Facebook is that the PE ratio for this company being 24 and a forward PE of 21. The big thing for me is that it has a PEG ratio of under 1, where anything under 1 is considered to be pretty good. While that growth rate for revenue is impressive, what's also always impressive to me is that this company has extremely high profit margins. At a 37% profit margin, a lot of that revenue growth turns into earnings. Return on equity solid, above 30%, and we see that the balance sheet is also looking pretty good with $64 billion of cash on hand, not a ton of debt. I mean, levered free cash flow for the past 12 months is $22 billion. Pretty much from every financial angle, this company is firing on all cylinders. Also, if you care about what Wall Street thinks and kind of the analyst's opinion on the stock, they have an overall median target of around $426, the lowest being $350, which is actually still higher than where it's currently at. Overall, Wall Street is very bullish on Facebook. I think they kind of had this similar opinion where kind of all this information that's in the news is more short-term based, and if it passes by within 3 to 4 months and this thing goes back closer to fair value, this can create some good upside if you're buying into the fear. Also, without doing my own discounted cash flow model, I can use something like Finbox, which uses a lot of different multiple valuations as well as models to kind of see from a fair value perspective what Facebook would be worth, which is around $425. Technically speaking, it looks sound. Fundamentally speaking, it looks sound, and analysts on Wall Street pretty much agree. So across the board, financially, the company looks solid. It's just whether or not you think the PR and kind of the information around regulation as well as interruption to how the algorithm currently works will be a long-term impact. If you think regulation will come and destroy Facebook, then it may not be the stock for you. But if you think kind of 3 to 4 months, everyone kind of forgets about it, they don't really follow through on any of this regulation, then Facebook looks like a solid buy, in my opinion. Unfortunately, this isn't Facebook's first scandal. Back in 2018, if you remember, there was the Cambridge Analytica scandal. And if we look at the stock price back in 2018, it ranged from 194 all the way down to 131. At its current price, you can see that over time, the scandals kind of disappear and the fundamentals of the stock kind of overwhelm it. Now, with my own portfolio, my percentage of Facebook is already 7.5%, but my rule of thumb is usually up to 10% is where I kind of limit the buying for one stock. And I really haven't been adding to Facebook when it's been around 8.5%. But with something like this and the current price, I think I may add a little bit more Facebook around these prices just because of the solid financials and the potential for it to bounce once this short-term news passes. Definitely a bit of a controversial stock to talk about, but as always, you can leave your comments below on your own opinion and whether or not you think Facebook is a total trap or evil, or if you're going in and thinking that this presents a good opportunity as well. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to hit that like button as well as consider subscribing to Main Street Wolf, where we talk investing, stocks, anything to do with money. Thanks guys for watching and have a great day.